first place is on the line in the NFC North, and don't look now. Yes, Jordan Love ready to rock and roll, rocking the number 4 jersey in honor of Brett Favre, the $200 million man, a little banged up, but he's recovered. What you can expect from him. And on the other side, the Vikings, they have their QB1, and his name is Sam Darnold, the secret sauce in his success that explains a perfect season for the Vikings. The answer is coming up next on Game Day Preview.
I don't do this for the paycheck. Step out on the field and hit
You tell me today what type of team you want to be, and you gonna give it your all today. We don't take no pressure.
it's in my blood. I'm in this for the love.
Aaron Rodgers with the quick trigger. T.J. Watt with a sack. He'll scamper out to the left. Throws Darnold to Justin Jefferson.
Well, we ended the montage with the guy, and we will start the show with him again. The Jets hosting the Broncos. Aaron Rodgers looking like the old Aaron Rodgers on TNF last week. Good news for him. His offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, is seeing some success. Sean Payton, if you remember, said he was responsible for one of the worst coaching jobs in NFL history when he was the Broncos head coach. With that, we welcome you inside our studios. Another brand new edition of Game Day Preview. Mike Am, Steve Weich, and Cynthia Freeland. Do we start with drama? Is that the
drama.
Why wouldn't we?
Who doesn't love it?
a little bit of a build-up, one of the major storylines that we will be tracking in that Jets-Broncos game. But I get it. You're watching the show and you're thinking, hey, how's my lineups going to be doing? Some of my picks, and it all centers on who is playing and who might be out of their lineups. A closer look here, and yes, he is active. Jordan Love, 3 weeks removed with the MCL. It was looking like he was trending in that direction. This is a positive sign against the Vikings. Joe Mixon still dealing with that ankle injury, inactive. The Saints, a slew of injuries, but relatively healthy now on that offensive side. For a little bit more context on some major storylines as it pertains to some of those injuries, one of the hosts of The Insiders on NFL Network, our insider, Ian Rappaport, one of our favorites, is with us right now. Ian, Justin Herbert, we keep going back and forth. We know he was banged up even before the season started. What's the latest on his health?
Jordan Love is expected to play today for the Los Angeles Chargers. That's the good news. The not so great news is that he is certainly not 100%, still dealing with that high ankle sprain. And if this sounds familiar, it's because we literally talked about the exact same thing all last week. Same injury, same foot, aggravated it last week, was not able to finish the game, got back at practice this week, and sounded like treatment went really well, was definitely feeling better, was moving around a little bit better. So he is expected to start barring some sort of setback. So it's this week against the Chiefs, and then they have the bye if he gets through it. Hopefully he should be good on the other side of it, but not having either of his 2 starting tackles, probably not the greatest thing of all time for Justin Herbert. Meanwhile, for the opponent today, the Kansas City Chiefs, there's been a lot of discussion about Travis Kelce and, of course, his production being down just a little bit, 69 yards this season thus far. Kind of reminds me of last year when he started off slow. Then when the team needed him in the playoffs, he was one of the best players on the field. That's what the Chiefs expect this time. As far as why the stats are where they are, my understanding after talking to Chiefs sources is defense are still giving him the attention that he got last year, the previous year, getting double team plenty, which has really opened up a lot of the offense for Rashee Rice, for Xavier Worthy. They believe that Kelce's speed is the same as it always was, and they are confident that when they gotta have it, especially later in the year, that he will be there.
Yeah, more on Travis Kelce from both Steve and Cynthia coming up in just a bit, so Taylor Swift fans, sit tight. Meanwhile, fantasy owners on the edge of their seats on the answer that you're about to give me. Christian McCaffrey, haven't seen him out on the football field. How close are Niners fans?
It doesn't sound like very close to being actually on the field playing for the 49ers, but there was a little bit of good news this week. Here's where we are. Christian McCaffrey went to Germany this week to have a PRP-like treatment. He is now back. My understanding is the treatment went well. There is a potential that he could be back running on hard ground next week, this coming week, in other words. That would be progress. That would be a step in the right direction. He's dealing with Achilles tendonitis, which is a terrible injury. Really painful, really something that has been hard to handle, hard to get the inflammation down. As of right now, he should be back, though. I know there's someone wondering, is he ever going to play? He should be back. My understanding is at least by early November, we should see McCaffrey on the field, which, considering what he's dealing with, has to be a win for the 49ers.
Yeah, no question. And once again, from a fantasy perspective, all those owners cannot wait to see that. And Niners fans can't come fast enough. Ian, you're the best man. Always appreciate your insight as we take a closer look at what is going to happen on the football field today. Xavier McKinney, the former Giant, balling out.
You love that, Mike.
I kind of don't. For more on this Green Bay matchup that we're going to see, we head to our NFL Network senior reporter, Stacey Dales, who is standing by.
It is official, as you guys know. Jordan Love up and active after missing the last 2 games. Malik Willis did a fine job, but the Packers are excited to have their quarterback back for this game against the Vikings. I'm told that he looked really good this week. Even in limited capacity, he looked really good in terms of his movement, which is very important, as you know, with this Vikings defense, who leads the NFL in sacks, quarterback pressures, quarterback hits. Jonathan Grenard from their defensive front told me, "We make sure we have the last and final answer." That is their mindset as they get ready to face Jordan Love today. But they know these Packers lead the league in rush yards on the ground. They got to take that away first.
And look, this is a story even a week ago when we were doing this show. We're like, damn, like Jordan Love might come back, and it was trending in that direction. So maybe not a huge surprise that he's going to be out on the football field. But what's the impact in such an important game for this team?
First off, it's early, but you saw some of the video footage. It looked kind of windy there. Looks a little bit breezy, but getting Jordan Love back is big because he's faced the Vikings twice last year. So this is a situation where he may not know everything that Brian Flores is going to pull out, but he's faced some of his tendencies. He's faced some of his personnel. Having that familiarity is very big in a game like this. Plus, he's somebody who's seen enough football where he can decipher some things as the game goes along. As you know, his head coach and play caller, Matt LaFleur, is very good at that also. But here's what I'm looking at. See, if Matt LaFleur, talking about someone being in his play calling bag, if he comes out with a Malik Willis package, we've seen Malik Willis have some good run setup, option reads the past couple weeks. Why not try it out, put it on film, so when other teams have to look at it like, okay, this guy might come in and give us something too. And Cynthia, knowing what Brian Flores has been able to do with the Vikings defense, it might be something that could catch him off guard.
Well, speaking of that Brian Flores defense, let's start with the pass first. 16 sacks, they lead the NFL. But something cool that happened last week, we were talking about it. C.J. Stroud, do you blitz him, do you not? Are we playing by our identity, meaning are the Vikings playing in the blitz, or are they not? They did it exactly 50% of the time. They led the NFL last week in the number of pressures, 23. 13 came with the blitz, 10 came without the blitz, 3 sacks without the blitz, 2 sacks with the blitz. Point being, they can adjust their tendencies to what an opponent doesn't like. This is how this defense has year over year gotten better. This is what's different from last year's defense than this year's defense. So I'm really interested to see all the different packages he comes out with this week, because we know this is a run-first Packers offense, and any passes that come off of it are going to be those if-then decisions defenders have to make.
Anyone else a little surprised? Daniil Hunter not on this roster, and yet we're still talking about a
Jonathan Grenard, baby.
And Andrew Van Ginkel, who he had in Miami, who's when one thing about Brian Flores' defense, you've got to be hard rock, setting the edge. Those two guys fit that bill.
Does anyone look more like a Viking than Van Ginkel? I mean, was anyone more perfectly suited to be on a team than Van Ginkel?
With the name. By the way, I bring up Hunter. You guys almost yelled at me for a second there. I was like, damn, like he's still a really talented player.
He's doing his thing in Houston.
And he is.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, like,
win-win.
This defense in a lot of ways has been thriving. And once again, the biggest and toughest test with first place on the line in this division. Meanwhile, there's some other games that are grabbing our attention here on Game Day Preview, and whatever this guy hits the field in Saquon Barkley, all eyes on him. On the road in Tampa Bay, our Sarah Walsh is standing by and has more.
The Eagles roll into Tampa today with momentum, but without 2 of their biggest offensive stars. No Devontae Smith, no A.J. Brown, so expect a heavy dose of the league's leading rusher in Saquon Barkley. The Eagles will also be without right tackle Lane Johnson, who didn't clear concussion protocol. On the flip side, the Bucs still missing their starting right tackle. Luke Gedeke is going to miss his 3rd straight game. That's critical because Baker has been sacked 12 times over the last 2 games. On the Bucs defensive side, still no Antoine Winfield Jr., but the good news, Vita Vea is returning from a knee issue that kept him out last week, and the Bucs need him. Sacks have been scarce. The Bucs have just 2 this season so far.
Okay, so this needs to be said here. The fact that Sarah Walsh is working right now
Insane.
is wild to me. I know both you guys have had an opportunity to circle up with Sarah, and you can see here the Glazer family donating $1 million hurricane Helene relief efforts. Where I'm going with this is Sarah's down there, and among many other families, that community just rocked and devastated.
Wait, we have to point out, because she posted it, so it's fair game.
Yeah.
Her husband was saving people and dogs on a floaty raft in their neighborhood. I mean, I can't overstate how hard all of this stuff is, and the fact that she's working out, like, what a hero! Like,
salute to her and everybody down there, all the first responders.
Yes.
That's a bad situation.
Horrible.
Yeah, just absolutely brutal, and you can see it there, that QR code, if you want to make a donation to the Red Cross. But just, we came in, you were telling me you were in contact with her, and I was like, is she even working today? And sure enough, you see her up on the monitor.
Crushing it.
Dude, you got to be kidding me. There's a lot going on. And I think from a personal perspective, so I think a lot of us in moments of tragedy do look for outlets, and the NFL and sport in general has been a nice way to get away here. And there is some football for that community that they can focus in on. And it's not always easy when you root for a team like the Bucs and you see a guy like Saquon Barkley on the other side of the field.
Well, Sarah pointed it out. Vita Vea is back, which is a huge gap stopper. We know that Todd Bowles, what does he like to do?
He
Stop
blitz.
the run. He doesn't like to let people run on him. And Saquon Barkley leads the NFL, 351 all-purpose yards, but 199 of those came from in between the tackles. That is a really key note because that is where Vita Vea lines up. So while I still think it's a big day for Barkley, mostly because of volume, it's going to be much more difficult now that we have Vita Vea there to plug it up.
Well, also Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think this is one we've seen in the past couple weeks. He's running a little bit more when the opportunity presents itself. He's going to have to do that today because the Bucs last week, man, they really got out of character. They were very disrupted in the way that they played. They've got to get back. You talk about stopping Saquon Barkley. That means Todd Bowles, you talked about he hates in between the tackles. He's gonna run blitz, right?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you when the Eagles' top two wide receivers aren't there? Yeah. There's not that fear of getting burned, so they're gonna play between the numbers, right, with their tight ends. They're gonna try to run the ball, not having Lane Johnson at right tackle. You think they're not bringing smoke off that side? Todd Bowles is gonna be dumping everything against this Eagles offense that is hindered and put a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts. Let's not forget last year when the Bucs played Philly in the playoffs, the way that they blitzed Jalen Hurts became the roadmap for people saying, you blitz him the way Todd Bowles did, you are going to affect him and really hamper this offense.
Yeah, the Bucs have had a lot of success against this Eagles team, but a week ago, I think, left us questioning what Tampa Bay is, especially up front. I mean, Baker Mayfield was running around with, kind of his head just spinning all over the place. I know you will be back with us in just a little bit here on Game Day Preview. And look, there's always going to be chatter out on the football field, but how about our colleague Bridget Condon picking up on this? C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a lot to say about his former team after the Eagles beat the Saints last week. He's saying, hey, they ain't no contenders, they're pretenders. They have Derek Carr, remember that. Well, Cam Jordan responded to those comments on his Off the Edge podcast.
After the game, spoils go to the victor. CJ comes out and says, the Saints are pretenders, which he played for us when Sean Payton was here. He didn't get to see the Dennis Allen takeover. And he, but Chauncey is also a really good safety. So they won, and he's able to say the type of things he said. It's just a part of the game. Had he lost, he couldn't have said it. And all that he said was, he said some crazy statements about, remember they got Derek Carr, they're pretenders, they're not contenders, et cetera, et cetera. Like, in all due respect, like, relax, we have to prove that we're not pretenders. We have to prove that we're contenders. And that goes for each and every team in the NFL. Every week, there's a chance you can win, lose, and hopefully not draw. There has to be a winner, and you're going to continue fighting for that.
Time for Road Warriors, presented by Courtyard Marriott. I thought Cam Jordan could have gone even harder.
He was so diplomatic right there. You know what he said, all due respect, that he really wanted to
I thought there was going to be some bleeps.
Yes.
Where I thought we were going with this. I think, I don't want to speak for you, but I think we're probably on the same page. The Saints are contenders. And look, this is an opportunity to bounce back on the road to really prove that against Atlanta.
Well, against Atlanta, they're 5-1 in Atlanta the last 6 games. The Falcons have not won at home this year. So this is kind of a welcome mat for the Saints to come in and play good football. And even though they lost that game to the Eagles last week, they lost 15-12. This defense, which won't have linebacker Demario Davis, is coming in against a pretty good Falcons offense, but one that their quarterback Kirk Cousins can turn the ball over when you're facing this type of secondary, led by Ty Matthew, right? This is why I think the Saints have a really good chance coming in here. I mean, offensively, the Falcons are going to give up a bunch of yards, but like the Saints, they don't give up a ton of touchdowns. So this can be a field goal kicking game indoors. But I think the fact that the Saints are very good taking the ball away, at pressuring the quarterback, that is a reason why they could be road warriors in their adopted home of Atlanta.
Yeah, you know the crazy.
I went harder than Cam Jordan.
You did. I was like, oh, okay.
5-1 their last 6
I know.
games.
It's wild to me. The only other thing that I'll throw out there from a Saints perspective, which would bring a smile to your face, Atlanta, you know, they tried to address it with Matthew Judon. Like, how do we get pressure on quarterbacks? This has been an ongoing theme. I was down in Atlanta for training camp. The people and the fans talking about that very subject. 3 sacks so far this season, tied for the second fewest in the league. Judon, I think, has got 1.5. But the point is, they got to be better about that. And Derek Carr, however you feel about him, probably will ball out in a game like this. Meanwhile, a 2-1 Jets team looking to start 3-1. Last time that happened, 2015. A little bit of a reunion here. Oh, Zach and Aaron, remember those good times inside the quarterback room? More on this game coming up next.
And you just tell he's not himself. The guy who's been in the league as long as he has. How are you going to handle this? Hey, look out.
Really go back to the very beginning.
Back to the future.
All right, let's take a look at this.
Tonight's contest, Super Bowl 45.
58. Rodgers rainbows. Dirty knows it. He's got it. Lobs one down the right side. Caught. There we go.
The ball looks like a bolt of lightning.
Throws it over the middle. Leaping red. Touchdown. Rodgers puts it right in his hands. Hey, nice.
He throws 1.21 gigawatts.
Your Super Bowl dagger. Aaron Rodgers with the quick trigger. He looked right.
We've seen that ball come out of his hand the way it used to.
It means I played a long time.
Great Scott!
Mooch is the best. I don't know how else to describe
But did
it.
we dub a Dak Here We Go with Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
That's slick, though.
Yeah, it sounded really good. Aaron Rodgers, by the way, and I agree with the assessment, did look like the old Aaron Rodgers on TNF. For a little bit more on this game, Mike Garafolo, he's in East Rutherford.
Thanks, Jammer. Well, you remember it was over a year ago when Sean Payton, now the Broncos head coach, took a shot at his predecessor, actually a couple of shots, Nathaniel Hackett, now the offensive coordinator of the Jets. And the Jets exacted revenge for those comments with a win last year, but Aaron Rodgers didn't get a chance to play in that game. Well, he's playing today. He was asked about that a couple of days ago because he's such a close friend of Hackett's and was a defender of him after Payton's comments. And he said that's, quote, old news. When you talk to people who know Rodgers, they say, no, somewhere in the recesses of his brain, he would like to hang 50 on Peyton and the Broncos today. So we'll see if that can be the case. On the other side, Bo Nix, the Broncos did some stuff last week to get him comfortable, spread things out, did more of the stuff that he was used to doing in college, more comfortable doing. So the hope is that he will continue to play well after breaking out last week against the Buccaneers.
Mike G, number one, always looking sharp with some of those suits
Yes.
there. One thing that you probably couldn't pick up on, maybe just slightly, I think there's going to be a heavy dose of the run game because the weather doesn't look all that great in New Jersey.
Yeah,
right
raining.
Now. It does look a little wet. What are you keying in on?
Well, I'm keying on this is Aaron Rodgers' first time to get back at Sean Payton. You know, keep my coach's name, a.k.a. Nate Hackett, keep his name out your mouth. So, and look, I know this is speaking with some folks in the Jets organization this summer. If they've got an opportunity to hang 40, 50 burger on the Broncos, they're going to do it. Now, the thing is, the Broncos defense has played pretty well, and their pass defense ranks second in the NFL. Patrick Surtain out there, and some of those other talented DBs that they have. So, to mention, like you said, the run game, I think we're going to see Breece Hall and rookie Braylon Allen doing his thing for the Jets out there today. Aaron Rodgers, though, he's going to want some get back.
You know, we started this show loving up the Vikings and their defense with those 16 sacks. Number 2 in the NFL. Right behind them with 14 is the Jets. So for what it's worth on that side of the football, Bo Nix, just keep that radar going. He's going to be feeling a little bit of heat and pressure. Another matchup that we are certainly keeping our eye on is a perfect team in the NFL. One of 5 undefeated squads entering play today. That's Justin Fields and the Steelers. For more on the matchup in Indianapolis, here's our Cam Wolf.
Justin Fields gets a start for the Steelers again with Russell Wilson inactive with that calf injury as the Steelers try to improve to 4-0. And Fields has not surprised the Steelers with his play. Offensive coordinator Arthur Smith told me he's extremely intelligent. He is fun to coach, and he's able to be pushed hard. And the result, well, Fields is throwing fewer interceptions, taking fewer sacks, and getting the ball out of his hands quicker. One thing to watch today, Fields says he needs to use his legs more to run. Arthur Smith told me there's a fine line between being a runner and being reckless, so they'll try to balance that today. And as far as that run game, Jaylen Warren is inactive today, so expect a heavy dose of Najee Harris and Cordell Patterson in the backfield.
All right, there was a quarterback competition heading into this season, and Justin Fields did not win it. Russ has been dinged up right now, but Justin Fields, career high in terms of completion percentage. We know how effective he can be running the football. What do you make of the comments that Cam just said about his game?
Well, I mean, the fact he wants to use his legs a little bit more, this is the kind of the game to do it. The Colts, we know they're not a great run defense, and Kwity Paye, you know, their edge rusher, really one of the best in the NFL, is out. So I would look for Arthur Smith, who loves to run the football, to have some scheduled runs for Justin Fields in this game to open up the passing game. Look, Fields is 25 of 32 with a 55-yard touchdown pass last week. He is getting better. Also, you heard Cam mention Cordell Patterson backing up Najee Harris. There is not a coach-player relationship in the NFL the way that offensive coordinator Arthur Smith loves Cordell Patterson. So I would look for him to probably get close to double-digit touches if they get that run game going.
A little bit of a preview of who hits the end zone. He's not an option because we didn't pick that game for where you can go, but we're double dipping. Steve's telling you Patterson's going to figure out a way to get into the end zone. Just throwing that out there. And just one quick note here from Anthony Richardson's perspective. Got to stop with some of these turnovers. It's been tough at times.
And he's got to complete some passes.
Yes, career lows. Well, not saying much because it's second year, but the point is the completion percentage, 49.3%.
Yeah, below 50.
That's not good. You know who is balling at the quarterback spot? Jaden Daniels.
Yes, quite.
Bengals bring the house. Jaden loads one up for McLaurin in the end zone. Kicking. He did. Touchdown! Touchdown, Washington! Unreal!
That was incredible.
Time for the Rookie to Watch, presented by New Era. You and I were hanging on Monday night because we do the post-game show on NFL Network, and we absolutely loved what we saw from the rookie QB.
And look, this is a game to build on. Okay, was that just a flashpoint like a lot of rookies have, or is he going to build on it? They're playing the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm glad he had that shootout against the Cincinnati Bengals, because this is going to be the sequel, because Washington's defense is not stopping many people. And this is going to be a back-and-forth game right here, so we're going to see if Jaden Daniels is going to be able to hit the big play with his arm or his legs. But it was good to see that he can play in that type of game, because this one, even today, probably won't be the last like that this season.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one, because it's going to be fun. You got two of the more athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. You had said shootout in a big way, maybe better than what we saw a week ago from Jaden Daniels, who, by the way, didn't throw it 40 times in that game, just
23 times, 21 to 23.
And look, 91, whatever it was, 91.3%. It was a single game record in the NFL for a rookie in terms of completion percentage. But the point is, him and Kyler running around the football field, it's going to be entertaining to go and watch this game.
What's the common denominator right here? Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury, baby. He's going to try to get some back in Arizona.
Yes, no question. By the way, we will be picking this game coming up in just a bit. There is more to come here, though, on Game Day Preview. We're just scratching the surface as we take you around the league. We got a little bit of a fantasy hit, and yes, more on one of the games that is the most meaningful of the week. First place in the NFC North on the line. Packers and Vikings. More to come on Game Day Preview.
That's not us at all. You got to find our mojo, you know.
It's like something out of Austin Powers.
NFL man of mystery.
Yeah, baby.
Lamar Jackson is in. Touchdown, Ravens. That's the offense we've been waiting to see.
Oh, they found something today.
Groovy.
Are we all grooving?
Yeah, baby.
Josh Middle endangered Allen.
Josh Allen with a 6-yard touchdown romp. A touchdown strike from Allen.
Feels good, I'll tell you that.
No pressure, rolls to his right, throws it in the end zone, caught. And they make it look easy when they're doing it.
Oh, this Bills offense is explosive right now.
Yeah, groovy.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, some real dudes on the football field when those two squads will go head-to-head. A former Pro Bowler and NFL legend, Lorenzo Alexander, is with us, and can't thank you enough for giving us a couple of minutes. Steve and I were talking a little bit about your career, and I want to get to some of your experiences, but you see the game in a unique way because of what you did on the field, especially on the defensive side. The Bills' offense has been rolling. We just played some of those highlights there. Explain to me why they're so effective.
I think because they're balanced. I think a lot of it has to do, obviously, with Josh's maturity. I think when Diggs got there, he needed him at that point, and now that Diggs is gone, he's at that point kind of similar to Pat Mahomes when Tyreek Hill left, and he's able to distribute the ball. He's seen everything underneath the sun. And I think also he's learned how to not have to be Superman all the time because he's relying on his teammates, and they're really living up to that motto, everybody eats.
Hey, Lorenzo, look, both these teams have similar offensive philosophies, right? They've got mobile quarterbacks, and they're both basically based around two tight end sets as receivers and run blockers. As a former inside linebacker where you spent most of your career, you've played some on the outside, how much stress does that put on defenses now that you've got middle-of-the-field type offenses with these two tight end receivers and quarterbacks who can run?
It really comes down to the flexibility of those tight ends, right? When you think about Buffalo Bills and also the Ravens, these guys can also line up outside. And so in an era of matchups, do I play base? Do I play nickel? Am I on the field? Am I coming off? Right? So you can also guard and play different coverages behind it. So it makes it very difficult for obviously players that may not be able to match up with a Dawson Knox outside, but then also if you put a safety in, can he withstand the run game? And then obviously the quarterbacks, defenses never account for quarterbacks. And when you have these guys in space, it's really hard to bring them down. Josh with his size. And it's just really hard to kind of chase him. I remember chasing Lamar Jackson when I played. He shook Matt Milano. I'm like, oh my goodness, wow. And I happened to just dive and get lucky and clip his heels, and he failed. But he's just electric with his moves as well.
I'm actually glad that you bring that up because I'm glad I'm not the only one who sits there just staring at the screen at Lamar Jackson, and you guys on the field too. The guy is certainly magical when he's out there. His skill set, what is the most difficult thing about what Lamar does?
I mean, I think the biggest thing he's done now, he's really evolved as a pocket passer and is getting much better at that. But he's just so shifty. He's stronger than what you think he may be, wiry. When he came out of college out of Louisville, I thought, this dude is good, but he's not going to be able to take hits. But he's really matured, grown. He's just quick. I mean, it's really hard to kind of compartmentalize him because he can do anything at any time with his quickness and with his feet.
Lorenzo, we know you spent some of your career playing for Washington, and some of the things you just said about Lamar are some of the things being said about their rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. Tall, slim, big passer, evasive runner. When you look at Jaden, especially as how he's evolved just over the first 3 games, what do you see in him?
I really love it. I mean, he reminds me of C.J. Stroud in the sense of, being very decisive. That's what you want as a rookie quarterback, and that's what defenses often try to do is confuse you. They've done a good job of making the offense simple, getting the ball out of his hands, and when he doesn't see maybe his first and second progression, he has the ability to take off and extend plays. And now what we love to see as this offense has been evolving over the first 3 weeks. He made 2 big boy throws last week, standing in the pocket down to Scary Terry versus the Bengals. And that's when you start seeing this confidence. And as his confidence grows, I think he's only going to continue to get better, and which I really love to see from my Commanders.
Yeah, we're not done talking about this game. In fact, Cynthia will join us on set in a little bit, and we'll do a deeper dive on this Commanders squad and what they have against Arizona. But before I let you get going, NFL Legends community, there's a slew of you guys that have been gracious enough to stop by with us. What are you doing in terms of the work with that group?
It's really just connecting former players. So long there was this idea of when guys are done, we're done with you from an NFL perspective and just the game itself, right? And so now we have 26 former players that have kind of come together under Tracy Perman in the NFL. And the PA is doing things similar as well, just to make sure that guys are staying engaged, right? First with their resources that we've collectively bargained with the CBA, but most importantly, the community aspect, and really helping guys understand whether you played 1 year or 15 years, what you did was extraordinary. And now how can we use that skill set to now transition so you can continue that impact in other areas that you're gifted in? And that's what it comes down to, making sure guys understand that they have great value, whether they're playing or not, and then just connecting them. So it's really been a passion project for me, and really what I love to do is, and it keeps me around the game and involved with organizations as well as we try to help them on a local level also connect with guys.
Great stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome.
Absolutely great stuff.
Lorenzo, just to be clear, we're not done with you. Anytime you want to stop by with us, man, you have an open invite on Game Day Preview and anything that Steve and I are working on. Once again, appreciate your insight.
Appreciate you, fellas.
All right, it's time for Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. And let's take a closer look at this Chiefs matchup against the Chargers. We know J.K. Dobbins has been balling, 2 touchdowns in 3 games so far this season. Rashid Rice is a guy that I know you, Steve, had your eye on, averaging 96 receiving yards per game. And Mahomes, well, he's Mahomes. He's thrown 2 touchdowns in each of the last 2. Is there a player in this matchup, I don't know, tight end, that might kind of catch your eye?
Yes, Travis Kelce's going to get into the end zone today. Look, I know Justin Herbert, the Chargers quarterback, is a big injury news, but safety Derwin James, who has been the lockdown player on tight ends the first 3 games, he suspended this game for some repeated flagrant hits. That's the guy who they put on tight ends. So Travis Kelce is not going to have Derwin James on him. Plus, Travis Kelce has actually been open. But Rashid Rice and other players have gotten open, and Mahomes has been forced to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. This is a game where Travis gets into the end zone.
I know some people keep tabs on where Taylor Swift is. I'm not one of those dudes.
Yes, you are.
I swear I'm not. All I'm going to say is, if she is at this one, anticipate more and more cutaways, especially when Travis picks up that first touchdown of the season. More on this game coming up in just a bit. Let's keep in mind there is a very significant game today, but I want to remind you that DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns this season. And this week, new customers can bet $5 and pocket $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use the promo code GAME when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. The game that I was just making reference to, the Green Bay Packers, first place on the line against Minnesota. Oh, good to see that dude healthy again. Missed the last 2 games. Jordan Love, because of that MCL injury. How effective is he going to be? We think pretty darn effective. We're picking this game around the corner. That's the... Oh, good to see Jalen Hurts healthy and thriving, although he hasn't had a ton of success against the Bucs. 1-3 in his career against them. 4 passing touchdowns 5 interceptions. Not exactly sure if it's going to get better, but I do know the person to ask that question to. I know you check out all of his work, NFL.com, start and sit column. It's my guy, Michael F. Florio. Mike, always good to see you, man. I know we got some last-minute fantasy advice here for a lot of people just about to set those rosters and lock them in. Take me through the quarterbacks and some guys that you're considering sitting and the guys that you like to start.
Yeah, this week, we're going to talk about him, but I like Geno Smith as a start this week. It's not broke, so don't change anything when it comes to Jaden Daniels. Baker Mayfield has a matchup that he had success against in the past last year. Sam Darnold is red hot right now, so don't change that. And then the sits, I think Anthony Richardson this week is one to get away from. Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, I need to see it before I trust those guys again. Same thing with Matthew Stafford and Kirk Cousins. Until they start looking like themselves again, I think they could hit the bench. But Geno Smith is one that I think you could pick up potentially from your waiver wire and even start. The last 3 Seahawks and Lions games have combined between 68 and 93 points scored, plus the Lions are missing pieces in their secondary. We already saw Matthew Stafford get them for over 300 yards. Baker Mayfield was a top 5 fantasy quarterback against them a couple weeks ago. Geno is a very strong streaming option that I have plugged into a number of lineups myself this week.
Oh, I do like that. And I know there's always a conversation about some of the running backs. There's one guy in particular who I have loved to watch, and it was good to see him as one of your starts. So I don't want to steal your thunder, but take me through the starts and sits in the backfield.
Now I'm really curious who this player was, Yam, but...
Okay. I'll go Zach Moss with you just because I spent some time covering him when he was in college. So, and by the way, that matchup looks really, really spicy for him against Carolina.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I also think Aaron Jones is a must-start option this week. I love Tony Pollard and what could be a good game script for him. And then Najee Harris in a great matchup against the Colts. My sits, Rachaad White against a very tough Eagles run defense. Zamir White because Alexander Madison's getting all the valuable touches. DeAndre Swift, even in a good matchup, is tough to trust. And then Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine, they look like they're losing work in that backfield right now. But yeah, your guy, Zach Moss, Bills legend, Zach Moss.
Yes.
He has played over 60% of the snaps in every game, but that is only climbing. It's actually been over 70% in each of the last 2. He gets involvement in the passing game, which is just huge for fantasy if you play in a PPR league. And like Yan was saying, the matchup allowed the 5th most yards the Panthers have so far this year and 4 rushing touchdowns. But we have seen running backs go off against this defense for the better part of a year now. So if you have Zach Moss and you're not starting him this week, when are you? Go and get him in to your starting lineups.
I like that. By the way, more on this matchup coming up here on Game Day Preview, specifically a prediction regarding Joe Burrow. So stick around for that. Meanwhile, in terms of those wide receivers, I know we talked about Caleb and keeping him on the bench, but you like Rome Odunze as one of your starts. Take me through the list.
Yeah, I like Rome Odunze because the big play opportunity is there, and the Rams have struggled more than any team on deep passes. I like Khalil Shakir because the Ravens have struggled against slot receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr. in a slam dunk matchup. DK Metcalf and JSN, I think, are in play. I think Lockett's a sleeper in that one as well, and then Deontay Johnson. Demario Douglas is one of my deeper calls this week. Sits. We're going to talk about Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle. Michael Pittman Jr. just is really struggling, has a tough matchup. Cortland Sutton, same thing. And then Xavier Worthy not getting enough consistent usage. But I know Garrett Wilson is the name that stands out on this list. And when people are like, why sit Garrett Wilson? My answer is like, what do DK, George Pickens, and Mike Evans all have in common this season? They've all faced Patrick Surtain and been held to under 30 receiving yards. And it's not just Surtain, it's also the Denver Broncos. They've allowed the fewest yards, fantasy points, 2 wide receivers. And then Garrett Wilson has yet to finish any week this year as a top 25 wide receiver. So it's not like we're getting the elite production out of him anyway. So if you have another wide receiver that you feel good about on your bench, I think this is a week where you could go ahead and make that swap in your starting lineup.
Yeah, and once again, that is a who's list of sits at the wide receiver spot. So if you're not paying attention to what Mike is doing on NFL.com, I don't know what you are doing. Time for Who's Eating Good, and it's presented by Applebee's. He's one of your starts, and I know you name-checked him. Marvin Harrison, my lord, the rookie is balling over these last couple games.
Yeah, remember after week 1 when people were like,
Panic.
oh, Marvin Harrison Jr., he's made everyone look silly who has doubted him. In his last 2 games, nearly 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, at least 17 points in each, but this matchup literally could not get any better. The Commanders have allowed the most yards and touchdowns to wide receivers since the start of last season, the most touchdowns to wide receivers this season, and then we know their defense can be had and they give up plenty of points each week, but now that their offense is good with Jaden Daniels and they score a lot of points on their own, a lot of their games could become score fest, and this one in particular with 2 defenses that are a little weak and 2 strong offenses, a lot of points are going to be scored. I think you want as much exposure to this one as you can get, and you definitely want Marvin Harrison Jr. anywhere you can plug him in.
Yeah, it's a great call. By the way, we will be picking this game coming up in just a couple minutes here on Game Day Preview. Earlier, we highlighted it, and Steve Weich had the same assessment. Expect a shootout with 2 of these teams. So fantasy owners, you got to be kind of get that radar up and listen to what Steve and Mike are saying. Mike, you're the best man. Always appreciate the advice just before kickoff.
Thank you. Go Cat.
Oh, I like it. We'll drop in a little NBA reference. 2 guys that happen to be Knicks fans. Just saying. There's Sam Darnold. That was good, man. Mike, you always deal for me. We're going to try to have some fun watching that team in the Big Apple and watching this dude, Sam Darnold, who used to play there in a Jets uniform. What we can expect from him against the Packers is still to come. Go.
Sam Darnold at the helm. He's our new quarterback.
Hey, Darnold.
Number 14, 3rd overall pick in 2018.
Hey, Darnold.
Hey, boy. Oh, what's up? So excited.
Darnold to Jefferson.
That was a pretty sick play. You know what I mean?
Darnold putting on a show.
Sam's also a football head.
Football head. Football head. Yeah. Football. Football head. Football head.
Going deep. Got Jefferson. 97 yards. Holy smokes.
Hey, Darnold.
First 4 passing touchdown game since 2019.
Hey, Nickelodeon, thanks so much for the MVP.
Hey, Darnold.
Yeah.
Hey, Sam Darnold. What's good? Cynthia Freeland back with us here. I know, look, we started the show talking about this game, and this, in a lot of ways, when you got first place on the division, and there's a lot on the line here. You highlighted the Vikings defense, but yet there's at least a running back that's caught your eye.
Aaron Jones.
Fallen.
I understand that, like, revenge can be more of a narrative than a reality, but I don't think so in this game for a couple of reasons. Number one, we know that last year was not a good sight for the Vikings against the Packers. Well, one of the big things that's different this year is actually Aaron Jones and how well, Sam Darnold's keeping himself protected in this, he's been passing from the pocket, a clean pocket, in fact. And part of that is because Aaron Jones is so darn good and reliable. So if you don't think that Kevin O'Connell's like, hey, buddy, we got a game script today and it includes you in the end zone at least once, you are not a football fan if you don't think that's happening.
Well, I mean, look at this offense, too, Cynthia. I mean, running backs, when you had Todd Gurley, CMC, right? That's a type of offense. And, you talk about offenses, Green Bay runs the same type of scheme. So guess what? Brian Flores, this is the third consecutive game he is coaching against this Shanahan-McVay scheme coming off of San Francisco and Houston. So he's got some things that he can work with here. Now, Green Bay with Josh Johnson runs the ball very well. That's something that they really have to guard against. But in terms of pressures against a quarterback, and Jordan Love is going to play, but his knee is probably still not 100%, and he hasn't played in 2 games, this Vikings defense is going to be on full blast.
Okay, so in terms of a pick then, it sounds like maybe both you guys rolling with Minnesota?
Yeah. Okay. Going with the Skull.
Okay.
That was my...
Skull brother. There you go.
Packers at home, real test for them. They've kind of passed some tests the last couple weeks with wins, with Malik Willis. I'm going to roll with the home team.
I mean, I don't
hate it.
Yeah. I don't hate it.
Yeah, this is almost a coin toss game.
No, there's no question. By the way, we continue to roll with some of our picks as we focus in on a matchup from the postseason from a year ago.
Starting in the weight room, to be honest. I had these pants on that were just kind of a little too tight for me.
He has got enormous quads.
Why are you looking at me like that?
He's the Quadzilla.
Oh, man, I'm going to call you Saquon from now on. I went to South America.
He got those Quadzilla legs going.
Touchdown, Saquon Barkley.
His lower body strength is amazing.
Everyone thinks the world's ending.
A most difficult road trip ahead to New Orleans.
It really doesn't matter what the outside world thinks.
Game on the line. Barkley up the middle. Touchdown! Saquon Barkley!
Call me Saquon.
More than fair to characterize Saquon Barkley
Kind of
that
scary.
way. Yeah.
It's terrifying.
He is. And imagine trying to tackle this dude, which is not easy, and that's the task at hand for Tampa Bay.
Well, it is because, look, the Buccaneers are going to be facing an Eagles offense that doesn't have their top 2 wide receivers, so Saquon's going to be getting a heavy load, and that's something he seems to be cherishing. He's one of these backs, the more volume he gets, the better he plays. So this is going to be a very challenging game for this Bucs defense. We know Todd Bowles gets off the bus blitzing. There's probably going to be a lot of run blitzes. There's probably going to be spies on Saquon in pass situations, but he's somebody who has shown that regardless of what teams are trying to do to him, he can deliver.
Absolutely. I'm looking on the other side of this matchup, though, and I feel like, Sarah told us they're going to try to get the ball to Mike Evans. We get it. Sure. But at the end of the day, Chris Godwin is going to be a really big problem for them as well. He's been so efficient and effective. Part of that's because, Mike Evans is there. They draw the attention. He's back in the slot. That's where his home is, his natural place of running. But, I mean, that's just going to be a really big problem that the Eagles' defense is really going to have to account for, these multiple pass-catching threats.
Yeah. I'm curious, you're the only one, because Steve and I both like Tampa Bay in this one. You like Philadelphia. Why?
My model loves O-lines, and even with Lane Johnson out, the fact that the emphasis is between the tackles, and so the interior O-line is favored a little bit more in this one, in my matchup. I mean, the Bucs are missing a few pieces too, but Baker under pressure is a different thing than Jalen under pressure. So I don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
Like, I think this one's like 50-50.
You went back.
You flip a coin like 10 times, you're getting 5 and 5. So
I flipped. I was going Eagles on this just until the whole Lane Johnson did not clear the concussion protocol. I think that's something that favors a defense-heavy team like Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be lone wolfing this one heading into the show, and then I saw the final pick.
Flipped.
Yeah. So we're rolling with the Bucs here. All right, let's get to some quick picks here. Saints and Falcons is one of those matchups that we spent some time discussing and heard from Cam Jordan and some of his comments from C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and there's a little bit of trash talk here. You've been on record. Saints have owned the Falcons.
Owned, and they will continue. The Hoodats are going to, they've owned them in the Dome. That's going to continue.
Yeah, 14-4 road wins. That's the second best in the entire NFL since 2015. That would be divisional road wins. That'd be the Saints. They're on the road today. Boom.
In the Benz, not the Dome, is what I mentioned.
Hey, Steelers and Colts
Benz
here.
Dome.
Once again, a little bit. Oh, you see the clean sweep from a Saints perspective. Steelers and Colts, again, all of us like Pittsburgh. And I feel like what you say, wow, I don't know if the Colts have shown us a reason to pick them yet, Cynthia.
I'm kind of with you, but at the same time, I do think Jonathan Taylor and their O-line, I know they're having a new center start in this game, so part of that is a reason why I'm picking them. But, they do have a good O-line, and they do have Jonathan Taylor. So it's not like, if we say, well, Saquon Barkley could handle, the load himself, why couldn't John Taylor do?
No, not against the Steelers.
I'm just saying.
It's not happening.
I mean, I just feel like it's a little, that feels like a little like,
not today.
And by the way, we also heard from Cam Wolfe earlier in the show talking about Justin Fields wanting to make a concerted effort to use his legs. Could be another issue here, but I don't want to hammer this point home. The Colts with the turnovers with Anthony Richardson
are not good.
He's a big reason why I think a lot of us felt like the Colts were going to have a lot of success so far, or at least in the early stretch of the season. That has not played out that way. Broncos and Jets, once again, across the board, it is gang green.
Yeah, Jets, Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers in this run game, I mean, they're not going to throw the ball a lot successfully against Denver. Denver's pass defense is excellent.
It's also raining.
It's also raining. So the way they're going to run the ball, I think he's going to lead them to victory.
I mean, Breece Hall's had a touchdown in 6 consecutive games going back to last season.
Yeah.
Let's rack it up. That's 7.
Yeah. Let's give you a little bit of a glimpse at what we're thinking macro for a lot of the games here. Cynthia, you're going Bear.
I almost went Chicago.
Really? I mean, look, that one feels like I don't love it, but I feel like there is a point where your O-line doesn't work, and this is a good defense in the Bears. Their offense has some issues too, and both O-lines are super not great.
Rams can give up the big play.
So I don't love that one, but whatever. That's what I'm gonna say.
One of the other solo jobs is the Commanders and Cardinals. Make the case for Washington.
It's going to be a shootout, and I think Jaden Daniels is going to win the shootout. He might have to do something with his legs, but I just think this is a case where he's feeling a little spicy.
Feeling a little spicy.
Feeling a little spicy, yeah. He played well the other night. I think it's going to continue.
By the way, Bills-Ravens, I'm almost shocked I'm the only one rolling with the Ravens at home. It could have gone either way.
Yes.
Point is, Sunday statements. I don't get much right in life, but when I do, I need to remind everyone of it. Juwan Jennings.
There you go.
It was like, who's playing in this game for the San Francisco 49ers? 9 targets through the first 2 games. You know what he's never done before?
What?
That's hit triple digits in receiving yards. I think we are looking at a 100-yard receiving game for Juwan Jennings.
Like 3rd down. Purdy back. Purdy time. Purdy throws. Downfield wide open. Caught. Juwan Jennings has a hat trick in L.A.
All right, to be fair, I had planned. I didn't know we were going to roll the tape. I thought I was just going to say, hey, by the way, a reminder, Jennings, I had him a week ago. I didn't think. Otherwise, I would have said, hey, $175 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, you didn't call the 3 touchdowns, bro.
I did not. I was thinking it. I just didn't want to go there. Can I start? Just because, is that okay?
Please.
The floor is yours.
You were so great.
Joe Burrow. He has not been playing bad. He didn't play bad last week. We watched it. We had a front row seat as we were getting ready for post game. I think this dude throws for over 303 touchdowns. Carolina, this is a good matchup for him. They've allowed 32 points per game this season. If there's a time where this team is up against the wall, and I get it, it's still earlier in the season, it is right now. Joe Cool handles business, and if not, we got to change the hair color for Joe. You and I were both talking about that last week, Steve. So I like Burrow in a big way for this one. Cynthia, Travis Kelce is grabbing your attention.
Yeah, well, Travis Kelce's playing the Chargers, which feels like it's to be like, oh, automatic touchdown. But it hasn't looked that way so far this season. I think it's like 35 yards per game. Eek. Not what we're used to from him. However, I'm looking at this Chargers defense. They're going to have to account for Rashee Rice now. And you know what that means? They're going to have to keep my guy, Travis Kelce. He's going to score his first touchdown today.
Here we go.
And all the Taylor Swift fans in the audience are going to rejoice because they're going to know that their favorite football player gets in the end zone against the Chargers.
Remember, no Derwin James. And I'm going to keep it on the safety talk.
Yeah.
Derwin Jamesless.
Derwin Jamesless. But in this Falcons-Saints game, that is just so good. Ty Matthew is going to get his third interception of the season. He's tired of hearing about this Falcon safety tandem. He's going to let everyone know he's playing some of the best ball of his career. Oh, Kirk Cousins does have a tendency to throw yanks.
Can we also say that his teammate's going to have, he leads in 3.5 sacks, right? DB sacks are my favorite.
Love it.
Can we add another one for him too?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. We got it.
A little next level Sunday statement from the Honey Badger, who, by the way, has been stunning. I mean, just terrific so far.
And you're talking about Granderson as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes. He's a beast.
Did we? It was a clean sweep on the Saints to pick that game. Yeah, just throwing that out.
I was making sure you did, because we knew we were.
Yeah, no, I'm rolling there.
Okay, just making sure.
Look, absolute blast. Another edition of Game Day Preview. Essentially, it is over. Game Center. We will be tracking all of the games with you here on the NFL channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll do it again next week.